But I do think that the inflow of capital that is about to happen, if and when this ETF gets announced, is going to dwarf any kind of technical trading levels that you might see looking at some charts or anything like that. It's just, we're looking at a different order of magnitude phenomena here. So this is the higher order bit. This is the main thing that's happening.
Man, we have a problem, Mouse.
What problem? What do you
Mr. McMahon, we have a problem. They're in the parking lot.
You stay here! You stay here with Stephanie! You take me to him! Take me to the son of a bitch! Take me to him! Come on! Go, 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 go! Go, 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 go! Where is the son of a bitch? Where is he? Where is he? God, where is he?
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, Bitcoin continues to just chug along, putting in higher highs and higher lows. And this is a very interesting consolidation because it's not really moving insane in either direction, but you can see it is slowly starting to curve up. And this has a lot of people suggesting that maybe we could be forming this parabolic curve. Now, could we actually be going into a parabolic state for Bitcoin this early before the halving, right? This is something we've really never seen. But nevertheless, if we just have a look simply year over year, 1 year ago today, Bitcoin's price is up almost 130%. And from the lows, it's up over 150%. Now, obviously, there are some skeptics out there who still think this is some kind of a bull trap or a false rally, and they've been sitting in cash, which I feel pretty bad for those people at this point. And of course, the doom and gloomers calling for this massive imminent correction. But I want to show you today 3 charts, guys, 2 of them which are somewhat correlated, and one of them is going to absolutely blow your mind. And we have a lot of evidence based on history what we could expect from Bitcoin. Now, keep in mind, this is just using the technicals. This has nothing to do with the potential ETF launch and all the money that could come in. And I know what everybody's saying, oh, this ETF, it is just way, way overhyped, right? That's what a lot of people are saying. Well, in today's video, I want to show you what most people are not really fully comprehending about the ETF. I'm going to dive into the deeper layer in which most people are completely overlooking. So lots of things that I want to talk about today, and also not to mention the fact that Bitcoin supply crunch is real, and I'm going to show you just how crazy that could get. So you're definitely going to want to stick around to the end of this video, guys. If you're doubting this price action, if you think that it's all just a big fake out, if you don't think the ETF is going to have any impact, well, stick around to the end, and I guarantee, especially if you're new, you are going to probably walk away with a much different perception. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you are not subscribed, definitely consider it. So I do want to get to this chart from Eric Crown. Stick around for this. This is pretty mind-blowing. But, we had been talking about how, a lot of these, when you take these prices sort of out of the logarithmic and you put it into the linear, you could see just how insane of these price moves can be. And that's kind of where we're coming from, is could we be forming something parabolic, like that? Well, what I want to talk about first is start with this Mike Novogratz interview. Now, this was over on, I think it was Bloomberg TV. And, we know that Mike Novogratz is a bit of a Bitcoin bull. In fact, he is. But I want to start with sort of his prediction. Okay, he's been in the markets for a long time, what he thinks the ETF could do, where he thinks it could go, and then we're going to back it up with something that's probably going to blow your mind.
The Bitcoin, for its own part, has rallied to just above 38,000, and it's been flirting with that price right now. Where do you think it ends the year, or next year rather, at this pace?
Listen, there's a bunch of good things happening for Bitcoin, right? We are going to get an ETF. Right now, there's a lot of anticipation. Some of that's built into the price. When you actually get the ETF announcement, there's probably still 2 months before it starts trading. And then once it starts trading, we'll see if BlackRock and ourselves with Invesco and ARK and all these other institutions, Fidelity, have their sales forces out and are convincing people to adopt Bitcoin, the price is going to be significantly higher, especially at a time when the Fed is probably cutting rates. And so could we go to old highs by this time next year? Of course we could. And could we go higher? We'll see. You have to remember prices are set on the margin, and there's not that many sellers of Bitcoin, right? We're going to have the halving next year, which means that the daily supply or inflation rate gets cut in half. And so you really are setting up for a wonderful story.
So this might seem like it's not related, but stick with me, it's all going to make sense. My girlfriend actually sent me this article this morning. So it's obviously, we always joke, not really joke, it's actually not funny, but how bad the prices have really gotten, especially for millennials and, just housing and prices, right? So this says millennials need about $525,000 to be happy, and they are right, all right? Now, I'm not going to go into this whole article, but the part that jumped out to me was this section. It says, when adjusted for inflation, the average millennial earns 25% more by age 40 than boomers did, but millennials hold only a 5% share of the US wealth, whereas boomers own 21% of the wealth by that same age, and they probably own even more, because, for example, if you're sitting on a house that you bought 10 years ago for $300,000, that house could be worth $1.5 to $2 million now, depending on location, demand, and all that other stuff factored in, right? And trust me, I'm getting somewhere with this. So, if you have a look at the current age, right? So you could see that millennials are, 27 to 42, Gen X 43 to 58, right? And then Gen Z, kind of 11 to 26. Now, what's very interesting is if we take these two right here, millennials and Gen X, and I go over to my YouTube analytics, you could see that by far the most popular demographic is people aged between 35 and 44, and the largest chunk is 25 to 55. And then you could see, obviously, not too popular with the younger generation, I guess they don't care about making money, but if you are watching and you are between the ages of 18 and 24, you're probably going to be really freaking rich by the end of the next 2 years, so shout out to you. And it kind of tapers off a little bit as we get older. Well, this brings me to our friend. Like I said, this is all going somewhere. Stick with me. This brings me to my buddy Fred Krueger. Yes, his name is Fred Krueger. Like, he's coming after you in your dreams, Fred Krueger, right? Now, he has been involved in a lot of finance for quite some time. And, he talks about the older generation, and he explains how all of this new money that most of us don't realize, which has the majority of the wealth right now, is finally going to have that vehicle to enter. But listen to what he goes into. This is what I've been saying. It's what guys like British Hodl have been saying, but I get tired of saying it all the time. So I want to let somebody else speak so that you could see where they're coming from. It's about 10 minutes long, this clip, but stick around to the end. You're going to understand why this is going to be insane with new capital flowing in. Also, the fact that we have a supply crunch. So he goes into why it's relevant, how all this new money comes in, how the supply crunch is going to play out, and why all of these people, including myself and others that are charting, that are showing all these levels, why we may just have to throw that out the window.
This is fresh money that is not in Bitcoin, that is going to be in Bitcoin for the very first time. So let's quantify that. Let's get some sense of how big that is. Well, we know that Coinbase has about $70 billion of assets under management. Grayscale has maybe about $25, $30 billion. So let's say total about $100 billion is sitting between those two exchanges. Now you have Kraken that's a little smaller, Gemini, which is still smaller, but that's sort of the US-based exchange situation. Now, what happens when this ETF goes live? What happens is a whole number of players, institutions who couldn't normally buy into Bitcoin stored at Coinbase custody or stored in Gemini, which also has a custody solution. These institutions are going to be able to buy Bitcoin very easily for the first time. Not only big institutions like, say, pension funds, hedge funds, and the like, but I think you're going to have a lot of individuals, a lot of retail, and these people have accounts at Merrill Lynch, at Schwab, at E-Trade, and all of a sudden they are going to be able, for the most part, to trade in one of these 12 new ETFs that's coming out. So how big is that? Well, it's enormous. And just to give you a sense of how big, there are 400,000, roughly, financial advisors in America right now. Just in the United States, 400,000. If you take Western Europe, South America, et cetera, we're easily at 600,000, maybe 800,000 people who just advise other people on what to do with their money, right? So each of these advisors has between 10 and 100 different clients. Let's just say 10 for now. So that means that all of a sudden, we're starting to broaden this base of people who can buy Bitcoin. It almost doubles overnight. Say from, maybe about 30, 40 million people in the US who have it on Coinbase right now. This thing could go to 100 million people who own it through ETFs and stock products almost overnight. And that's really, really, really big. That means there's also institutions who are going to start buying it. So this is a fresh source of capital. And it's going to be enormous. And if you're younger, you don't quite understand how old people like myself tend to think about our assets. While I'm an exception, most people 50 and above do not want to move their assets. They want to hold their assets in a single or maybe one or two brokerage accounts, and they rarely, if ever, move these assets out of one account into another. Opening a brokerage account is incredibly painful. Most people don't trust themselves. They don't want to be wiring millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars even between accounts. The psychological burden is too big. So people get very comfortable with an account. If it's a managed account or if there's an advisor who's helping with it, they're trusting that person, and they just really have not made the leap to moving it to Coinbase, let alone moving it to a non-custodial wallet, writing down 12 words, storing these words in a safe deposit box, or etching them out on a piece of paper. This is not how normal financial decisions are made. Most people have some amount of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds in their, say, Charles Schwab account. That's a very common kind of situation. Now, a lot of millennials don't even have these accounts. They might have a Robinhood account. They don't really understand this, but people of my generation, generally, we don't own Bitcoin, generally. So, and we have pretty much most of the money. So, you have the generation that has the money, which is suddenly going to be able to buy the asset, Bitcoin. And that happens pretty much starting in about 40 days. 40 days, maybe 60, 70, maybe 90 days, but in the very short amount of time. So let's put a number, let's quantify that a little bit, okay? I think we could be looking at, $100 billion coming into this ecosystem in the space of a year or two. It might even be faster than a year. So $100 billion coming into legitimate, blessed ETFs, the BlackRock ETF, the Fidelity ETF, the ARK Invest ETF. These are names that the investing public trusts, and people are going to be comfortable with these names. They are not comfortable with the GBTC trust that was trading, recently at a really big discount. Now, there's been some great trading opportunities. GBTC has basically quadrupled since the beginning of the year, but most people that I know have not been involved in that trade simply because they just do not trust the structure of a closed-end a closed-end fund like GBTC. Second of all, people say, well, they could have invested in MSTR. Well, sure, MicroStrategy owns a very large amount of Bitcoin. Currently about 174,000 Bitcoin. But, it's not clear that this should be trading at a premium, a discount to this book value of Bitcoin. If they sell that Bitcoin, there's tax impact. So all in all, it is it's very small. It's a proxy for what the ETF will be, but it's not equivalent to the ETF. I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that this ETF is completely unique, and we have never seen anything really like it at all, and we will never see anything quite like it. So we're looking at a very unique event in the history of Bitcoin and in the history of finance. So now we've got this $100 billion coming in, and let's suppose that this just starts buying into Bitcoin at, say, 50,000, right? Well, if the price did not move, they would need 2 million Bitcoin to fulfill this 100 billion in demand. Well, there's only 2 billion Bitcoin on all of the Bitcoin exchanges currently. So you can't just buy 2 million Bitcoin. It's not possible. If you did, the price is not going to stay anywhere close to $50,000. The price will probably grow 10x, and I really mean it. It'll go from 50,000 to 500,000. So I think, while we don't know if we're going to have 100 billion, it certainly feels to me, based on my experience with the financial markets, that actually could happen. So, and if it does, I even feel it could be bigger than that. So if it does happen, I think the price movement on Bitcoin, there could be a supply shock that really is something like we saw in 2017. For those who were not here in 2017, we started the year around 1,000. We moved all the way up till 10,000, and then we had this blow off top from 10 to 20,000 in under a month. So it is conceivable that we 10x or 20x over the year or the year and a half right after the ETF, once this thing really starts to get going. I think that anything's possible. Now some people say, well, is it possible that we just sell the news? Sure, everything's possible for a short amount of time, but I do think that the inflow of capital that is about to happen if and when this ETF gets announced is going to dwarf any kind of technical trading levels that you might see looking at some charts or anything like that. We're looking at a different order of magnitude phenomenon here. So this is the higher order bit. This is the main thing that's happening.
And if you don't believe what's happening right now, you could see data by Glassnode shows over 37,000 Bitcoin worth 1.5 billion has been withdrawn from exchanges just since November 17th. That's 1.4 billion, right? So if you saw in that video, the way that Fred breaks it down, the way that now these people are going to have access to traditional vehicles through means that they trust. We have the supply crunch, right? You could see it on the charts. A lot of people are holding. In fact, I think if I go over here, you can actually see the Bitcoin profitability has reached the highest level since December of 2021. Over 80% of Bitcoin addresses are currently in profit. So that means if you bought Bitcoin over any point at any time in the history of Bitcoin completely blindly, theoretically, you should be up well, you shouldn't be up 80%, but 80% of the people who bought should technically be in the profits, which means there's only about 20% of people who are still somehow not in profit. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, unless you're just only buying tops, but it happens. People trade, they start getting into shit coins, all these other things. There's lots of different ways you can lose, but this is just specifically referring to the holders in profit. And what's so crazy about this is we have an 80% Bitcoin addresses currently holding in profit, and yet they're not selling. We have no sellers. All the OTC desks that I reach out to, that I talk to personally, they're having difficulty finding sellers. So again, where are all these going to come from? Where's Wall Street going to get all this Bitcoin from, right? So that was the first part of the video. Now I do want to hop into this these charts over here. So this is so interesting. So this is over on TradingView. This came from is this Trading Shot? Is that, I think that's the account, I believe. But I found this over on Twitter, and you could see that this is a very interesting formula. So the formula in blue has a differentiation towards Chinese bond yields. Yeah, look at this correlation. This is crazy. While the orange is the Chinese yuan, both are regressed against the Bitcoin dollar. And you can see right here, every single time that we have the orange bottoming and the blue going below it, this area right here, once you get this, you start to get that sideways accumulation for Bitcoin. And then once you get that bottom, you get that parabolic run, okay, over on the Chinese bond yields, which is this blue, and that's where you have this crazy run for Bitcoin. Now, I don't know if this is just a coincidence or what, but you could see right here, we have had that bottom, we have had that crossover. You could argue this is a potential accumulation. Maybe this was some driven fear by the FTX collapse, but again, having a look at these parabolic advances, this should bring us, somewhere up into this area. Now, I'm not saying Bitcoin's gonna go to 500,000, but if you also have a look at what TechDev did, he pointed out something very similar using the Chinese 10-year bonds. Now, I don't know what the correlation is with this. I don't really understand it myself, but you cannot lie that every time we have this flip, we do go into a massive run for Bitcoin. Now, obviously, it's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. The first one in 2010 was 2,000. Then we had an 80x in 2013. We had a 20x in 2017. We had a 5x here. So, maybe we're looking at something a little bit lower, right? But what we can notice is that we have had not only the super guppy, which I know some people hate the name of that, but that's just what it's called. I didn't make the indicator. Flipping into the green, right? These are our indicators these are all free, by the way. You can download. These are literally all free on TradingView. And you can see the RSI getting above its 70, staying above it for over 3 weeks. And of course, I put the MACD on logarithmic. I know this looks a little bit stupid, but I just wanted it so you can really see what we're looking at. And you could see that when you have the MACD over here on the weekly, and then you have this average moving up over top, okay, while we're going into the green, while we're getting the guppy, it basically creates a perfect storm. So we literally have all three of those flashing right now, and they're all flashing positive. We also have the fact that Bitcoin has been in this for 18 months, parallel channel, and while we've been rejected almost immediately, every time we hit the top of the channel, we've hung out here for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and it looks like we're trying to actually push up towards the top of the channel. Now, of course, I had mentioned that even if we had a pullback, down to this area, 30,000, I would have been okay with that. That would have been completely healthy. But since we have broken above this area and we are in the blue zone, and I'm not trying to be a bear. Clearly, I'm not a bear, but I am warning that it is getting overheated at the top of this blue box, and this blue box territory is around $41,170. So look, I'm going to be honest. If we break out of this area, you're probably going to new all-time highs, okay? Probably going to new all-time highs. That seems a little bit crazy, but stick around because I want to show you a chart which does look crazy, but may not make this sound so crazy. So getting back though, you can see that, at that point, you may expect some form of a cool down. I'm also noticing this trend right here. You could kind of see this right here. This is sort of this new trend. So, that area would kind of coincide at around the $29,000 area. Are they going to get that opportunity though? I don't know. I don't know, guys, because again, if we do continue on this parabolic run, you can see above my head right here that we have the volume range falling off a cliff. And it doesn't really pick back up again until about 56,000. You can see we go from this blue line to this purple line. You can see it right above my head. So, obviously we have massive support right here at around 30,000. this is crazy. This is why we're not going. I'm probably in the way, but anyway, this is why we're not going any lower than that. But yeah, so I would be a little bit cautious. But again, history is showing that we're in the green on the channel, and we are starting to form an ascending, broadening wedge. And I told you guys the last 2 times that we did this, yeah, it was pretty much bull territory. So that is pretty crazy. Again, we do still have these logarithmic curve targets. Some people are saying 400,000, 500,000. Realistically, the low would be 94, mid 130, up to 180. But like Eric Crown had actually pointed out, and this is so crazy, if you have a look at the accumulation distribution, and every time it gets above, you could see this area right here, what ends up happening was at the price basically ends up testing the prior cycle highs close within a month. Now, to put that into perspective, that's basically saying, the way that I interpret this is that within 1 month, we could potentially be going back to the all-time high. So in a month, so by the end of this year, beginning of next year, we could be back at $70,000 Bitcoin. Now, obviously, they are saying that within 40 days, we are looking to potentially, have an ETF approval. So it could get crazy really fast. Maybe we do then have that sell the news cool off period, until the actual product itself rolls out. But then, like guys like Mike Novogratz and, Fred Krueger are talking about, yeah, I could see it as a possibility. Like Samson Mouse said, he said Bitcoin can get as high as $1 million. Now it sounds crazy, but when you crunch the numbers and you consider the lack of Bitcoin on exchanges, it doesn't seem so crazy after all, right? So that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. Remember, if you do want to learn to trade, I highly recommend that you do check out, if you want, Apex Pro is absolutely phenomenal. They are completely decentralized. You always own full access to your keys. So if you are worried, it takes, obviously you have to learn how to, take care of your own keys, take care of your own coins, but you don't have to worry about leaving them on exchanges. So definitely check that out if you're interested. I do have that tutorial popping up right here, right now. And then of course there is Coin Crunch, which I don't have a tutorial yet for, but it is a centralized exchange, but there is no KYC, but, do what you want, not saying trade, jurisdictional, yada, yada, yada. You guys know the drill. Until next time, I love you, stay crypto, and of course, peace out.